Say you said the best lyricist. J.R. Wright is really clever with lyrics. Jewels is really clever with lyrics. I think Jim right now is grown into that spot. I think Jim always rapped really good, but he had more of the gangster image or the tough guy image to where people might not have been necessarily paying attention to his lyrics, but more of his image. And now I think they're kind of respecting his lyrics as well. But
Cameron just broke down exactly why Jim Jones was always the heartbeat of Dipset, but never the one who got the lyrical credit. See, everybody thinks they know the Dipset story, the Pink Mink era, the bandana era, the mixtape takeover. But when Cam starts peeling this back, he exposes something much deeper, something the game never wanted to admit. Jim Jones wasn't overlooked because he couldn't rap. He was overlooked because people were blinded by the image, the tough guy look, the fights, the aura. They never listened to the words until it was too late. Cam starts by breaking down the Dipset dynamic in a way only he can. He explains how people on the block would argue for hours about who was the best. J.R. Writer had the bars. Jewels had the hooks and the star power. But Jim Jones? He had something you couldn't manufacture. Influence, style, presence. He was the one people wanted to dress like according to Cameron. The one people copied. The chain on the belt loop. The whole swag wave. That matters in the hip-hop culture. That shapes movements. Now, I'm about to play this clip for y'all, but before I do, I just need y'all to like, leave y'all thoughts down below in the comment section, and subscribe. Let's get into it.
if you're just talking about pure lyrics, J.R. Writer was really, really nice.
Writer's block.
J.R. Writer is a lyric. If you're talking pure lyrics, the nigga who could make the best songs, Jewels. You know what I'm saying? Niggas want to be like Jim. You know what I'm saying? To where you like want to dress like him. You want to put chain on your belt loop and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? So I thought Dipset had a great dynamic because it was like, I seen this with No Limit. You know, that's what made me kind of want to create Dipset or a movement in general, because we would be on my block and niggas would be arguing about their favorite in No Limit. Like, nah, man, that nigga Mystical is better than Silk the Shocker. Like, nah, y'all bugging. This another nigga that's better than this thing. And when you have those type of arguments, you like, who gives a fuck who you like as long as they're all in the group. So I think it depends on how you look at it. When you say the best artist, you said the best lyricist. J.R. Wright is really clever with lyrics. Jewels is really clever with lyrics. I think Jim right now is grown into that spot. I think Jim always rapped really good, but he had more of the gangster image or the tough guy image to where people might not have been necessarily paying attention to his lyrics, but more of his image. And now I think they're kind of respecting his lyrics as well. But if you're talking during the height, I think if you're giving all around, even including myself, I think Jewels had everything.
And he only put out one album.
Two.
Well, wasn't one a mixtape and one was an album?
No, he put out 2 albums, but then he started doing a lot of mixtapes.
Right. Yeah. What, like when you think of Dipset, right? Like, how did that all come about, right? Because there have been many people trying to make groups since then, right? There was ASAP, which was big. That was probably the only other big thing that came out of Harlem. Like, was it, you were obviously popping first, right? And then did you find Jewels? And then you, in your mind, were you like, all right, I'm gonna turn this into a group? Or like, how did that all come about?
So the way it came about, I had a deal already, and I used to hang out at Jim's house, and me and Mace was like, you know, Jimmy, we could teach you how to rap, and he picked up on it quick. You know what I'm saying? He didn't start off as a rapper. He started as one of our niggas. And then he started learning the format and getting good at it. So me and Jim had a rapport because our grandmothers lived in the same building. And then Jewels, my situation wasn't really right at entertainment. And my man kept trying to introduce me to Jewels. And he's like, yo, I got this kid that's nice. I got this kid that's nice. I'm like, all right, but I got to get my shit together. And we was driving around my car and I fell asleep. And I woke up and Jewels was in the back of my car. He's like, this is the kid I'm telling you about. I'm looking at my man like, yo, bro, I just told you my shit ain't right. I'm gonna get this kid shit together. I'm almost getting my shit together, cool. But he's already in the car. I'm like, go ahead and rap. And that nigga from day one was spitting it. That nigga was nice from the very, very first day I met him. And I'm like, oh, this nigga's nice. And then I didn't really have a good eye for marketing, not like that, but I brought him to the studio when we was working on SDE and asked some bitches in there, and they was like, oh, he's cute. I'm like, oh, the hoes like this nigga too. So this nigga can rap, the hoes like him, and he knew how to do songs and do hooks. You got people who know how to rap, but they don't necessarily know how to do songs. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, like, I'm not saying I'm not frowning upon nobody, but I think even when I was working with Vado, he started learning how to be good at hooks. He's a great rapper, one of the best lyricists, but learning how to do hooks, and he became really good at it as well. Juelz had all that shit from the very first day I met him. He was ready to go from the beginning, but he was in a group called Draft Picks, and I told him straight up, I'm like, I don't really like your man like that. If you want to come fuck with what we trying to do, come fuck with us. But he was in the deal. I said, I don't expect you to curve your nigga. He's like, let me think about it. And then I guess him and his partner had to talk, and he's like, I'm going to come fuck with y'all. I was like, you can double back and get him, but he just can't come on this ride, pause.
Draft picks.
And then once you had Jim, who you and Mace were teaching to rap, you had Juelz, now you're in a major label deal, but learning probably the bullshit that you had been through, you had the vision early on to basically, mixtapes were popping at that point, so you were like, you're going to keep this independent until you got to Koch?
Well, you know, we see movements aren't new. You got like, what was that shit? The Native Tongues, Tribe Called Quest, and all them other niggas. And you got Cash Money, and you got Rough Riders, and you got Murder Inc., you got Wu-Tang. It's like, it wasn't new for me to do a group? Try to do a group. Even Big L, he's trying to do Children of the Corn with everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm on his album as well. When I'm fucking 17, 18 years old, how old I was. But the point being is, movements are new. I just was saying, when I see niggas on my block arguing about some New Orleans rappers and who was their favorite and so on and so forth, that's when I said I need to put this together. But to me, it wasn't nothing that hadn't been done already.
No.
This right here is the part of the conversation that really shows you why Dipset wasn't just a rap group. It was a blueprint for growth, reinvention, and building something bigger than your circumstances. Listening to Cam break this down, you realize something. Jim Jones didn't get respect early, not because he wasn't talented. It was because the culture wasn't ready to value that kind of evolution Jim Jones went through. Hip-hop loves the finished product. It rarely celebrates the grind it takes for somebody to get there. And Jim Jones was grinding in real time, right in front of people's eyes. What Cam said about teaching Jim Jones the basic matters as well. Not because it makes Jim Jones look unexperienced, but because it actually proves the opposite. It shows how much work Jim Jones had to put in to become the version of himself we know today. You can teach somebody structure. You can teach somebody flow, but you can't teach somebody hunger. Jim Jones brought that part all on his own. That's why I don't think it's fair to compare him to people who popped out the gate polished. Jim Jones didn't come in polished. He came in determined, though. And that's a different type of respect right there. And here's what I find interesting. Cam talked about how the image overshadowed the bars early on. And yeah, it did. Jim Jones was the look. Jim was the swagger. Jim was the energy. That's what people attached to him at first. But that energy he brought was part of the Dipset business model, whether they admit it or not. Dipset sold over 1 million mixtapes independently before any major label push. That type of organic movement only works when every piece of the group connects with the culture. And Jim Jones was one of the biggest connectors they had. The fact that people are only now giving Jim Jones credit for the music says more about the audience than it does about Jim Jones. Some people have to see you succeed before they respect how you got there. But when you go back and listen to the Dipset catalog and Jim Jones' solo work, you hear the growth. You hear the detail. You hear the confidence. You hear the pen game. And then you realize Cam was right. Jim Jones grew into that spot. He earned it. And that's major coming from Cam, given the negative history between him and Jim Jones. So let me ask you all this. Do you think Jim Jones is finally getting the respect he earned? Or is the culture still underrating him? And which Dipset member had the most complete skill set if you look at influence, lyrics, and star power together? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And make sure you like and subscribe. Peace.